to the August council meeting. Welcome councillors, staff, members of the public that are here with us in person and members of the public that are listening online as well. I declare the meeting open at 7:05 p.m. Just a reminder that members of the public that have registered to speak, if there's any online potentially, please keep your microphone muted and video off until I invite you to speak. Speakers will not be able to present material. Everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory marks. Defamation laws apply by addresses in public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette. For the efficient conduct of this meeting, is not necessary for you to repeat the matters you agree with and raised by any previous speaker. It is sufficient for you to say that you agree with the points raised. I remind all present that the video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. Therefore, all present should ensure there are no video recordings or photographs taken. The exception is photographs may be taken when we do presentations to community members, so that is fine. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We have with us tonight Father Valentin Mendoza Morales from St. Teresa's Catholic Church, Rosebery. Thank you for being here, and I invite you to open our meeting in prayer. Please be upstanding.
As we begin our Bayside Council meeting, we approach our sacred space with hearts and minds open to the best of human values, and with our bodies disposed to the encounter with our social diversity into a fruitful dialogue. As we get ready as a nation to a high moment in our history, in communion with Mother Nature and with all cultures, ethnicities, and spiritual traditions, we look forward to participate in this meeting in harmony, open perception, and intuition. We pray for wisdom to deal with the matters that we are about to discuss this evening. We pray also for guidance in our decisions. We pray for enthusiasm in our service, for perseverance when we find difficulties, and for joy to avoid disappointment so we can achieve what is the best for the people of our Bayside Council. We pray that we may be able to encourage each other in all our undertakings. We pray that we may acknowledge our differences as we seek a common ground, each one of us working toward the good of all. We entrust our meeting to the divinity of sacred presence in all the names known in our different traditions and spiritualities. May the spirit of truth and peace keep us in unity and devotion to Australia, our nation, and its people. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you very much, Father, for joining us and for your prayer. Please be seated. So tonight we have a presentation, and we have an award to Miss Talia June for her participation at the IBTF Nations Cup in Liverpool, England, representing Australia. Talia is a local young woman who represented Australia at the 2023 World Baton Twirling Federation Nations Cup and World Championships in Liverpool, England. Miss Talia June placed first in the individual senior artistic pairs, earning herself a gold medal. She also placed sixth in the finals for the senior A pairs and 16th in the finals for the individual senior B to baton. Your performance has showcased not only your individual talents, but also the spirit of Australian sportspersonship. Your achievements serve as an inspiration to all aspiring athletes and as a testament to the power of hard work, I'm sure, perseverance and determination. So on behalf of our Bayside community, we'd like to congratulate you and wish you every success in continuing to pursue your obvious talent. So if you'd like to come out, I'll present an award to you. Okay. There are no apologies tonight, no leave of absence, so we'll move to number 5, which is disclosures of interest. So we'll revert to the screen. So Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. I declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest in item 12.1 on the basis that I work for a small non-government organisation that advocates for everyday Australians to access clean energy and clean transport to address cost of living and climate issues, and I will remain in the meeting for consideration and voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Next. Is there any more on the screen?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor.
Nargi?
Just came to my attention 11.3 on CPE 23021 and non-significant non-pecuniary interest on the basis that I own a business on the other side of the station in First Street and I own a property in First Street, Arncliffe. So I will not be participating in the voting. Thank you.
So 11.3.
Yeah, 11.3 CPE 23021.
Okay,
It's only
so
a
that's
letter of offer. We haven't been involved in the decision making. It's a state government
so
approval.
you'll
Yeah,
leave the chamber.
I will leave the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Nargi. I might just go round Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow. No interest. Councillor Hannah, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Sedgwick. And I've got none either. Okay. That takes us to the minutes of the previous meeting. Someone happy to move that? Move Councillor Nargi, seconded Councillor Souness. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. All right, Mayoral Minutes. We've got one Mayoral Minute tonight. This is in relation to our new Park and Pay accessible parking initiative. This is a wonderful, innovative technology that improves accessibility and inclusivity across Bayside LGA. And so Council has partnered with the New South Wales Government Department of Customer Service and completed the installation of 160 in-ground, so you can't even see they're there, they're like a little in-ground circle, sensory parking spots. So people that have accessibility issues or a disability parking permit can go onto this app, have a look at where the spots are, and in real time see whether that spot is available. So we've placed them across the LGA, and the feedback has been really positive, and they're in really great spots near playgrounds and other areas where people frequent. And so a lot of work went into this initiative. So I congratulate staff on driving this and, you know, creating the option for people to, you know, really ensure that they have opportunities to find parking easily. So all those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. All right, councillors, that takes us to items by exception. So prior to the public forum, I will now proceed to deal with the remainder of the business paper by exception. Councillors, the public forum items, I'll call them out in a minute, or where a division is required in planning matters, that notices of motion and items where councillors have a pecuniary or non-significant interest will be dealt with individually. So are there any items that any councillor, so I'll just let you know, so at the moment, we have 10.4, we have 11.3, number 21. We have 11.7 and we have 12.1. Are there any items that any councillors wish to pull out? Councillor Werner?
Could we please
Can I
have,
ask you to stand, please? Thank you.
sure. Could we please have items 10.11 and 10.13, please?
So, Councillor Werner, we don't pull out responses to questions. They're just simply for receiving and noting. Are there any other items that anyone wishes to pull out? Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like 10.1.
Yep.
I would like 10.2. I would like 10.8. I would like 10.9. I would like to make that the end.
Thank you. Are there any other items? Councillor Souness? Can I ask you to put your microphone on, please? Thank you.
11.4, 23.020.
So the update on city projects?
Yeah, the first item there.
Okay.
11.6. Got a couple of questions surrounding that. And 11.7 there. No, those two, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. No other items? All right. I then move that all other items will be dealt with by one resolution. May I have a mover? Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Wada. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Okay. This now takes us to the public forum. We have two speakers that have registered to speak. So the first one is in relation to 10.4. So this is a response to a notice of motion, the St George Historical Society and Lyndon Hall, we have for the officer recommendation, Miss Tina Workman, interested resident.
Hello, everybody. I'm speaking in favour of the officer recommendation. Bayside Council has one building dedicated to the as a dedicated museum in the entire LGA, and that building is Lytham Hall Historic House. The museum is owned by Bayside Council and has been faithfully maintained and open to the public by the St George Historical Society since 1971. But for the past 4 years, Lytham Hall has been closed. 1 year of that closure was due to COVID and renovations, but that still leaves almost 3 years that the museum has sat there empty. It's remained closed, not only to the public, but also to the St George Historical Society. Despite our repeated requests for access, we're still waiting for the return of our keys. You're probably wondering why we should have our own keys. After all, it's a council-owned building and the licence agreement is not yet official. But let me explain that whilst the council owns the building, everything inside that building belongs to the St George Historical Society. Inside the museum are our files, our local history archives, photographs and memorabilia, and our collection, which is made up of furniture, objects and fragile textiles. All of this has been locked away in this building and it has deteriorated through water leaks, damp, dust, insect infestations. The Society are a small non-profit organisation and conservation is extraordinarily expensive. We will never recover what we've already lost, and we actually don't know entirely what we've lost yet. But we need to get in there in order to save what we have left. Tomorrow there's a meeting at the museum with Council and the Lytham Hall Advisory Committee, and we're hoping that tomorrow may be the day we receive our keys so that we can get on with the job of caring for our collection and opening up the museum to the public. We're extremely grateful for Council's generosity and grateful for the assistance that the Council staff in particular have provided to the Society through the process of developing a terms of reference and the licence agreement. But Council have been reluctant to provide access until the terms of reference and have been drawn up and the licence agreement with the Society has been signed. Finally, in April this year, after many meetings and discussions and to the relief of all involved, the licence terms were accepted by the Society and the Council. And at the committee meeting in April, everyone was in agreement that included the requirements and obligations for maintenance and provisions for early access. We never did get that early access, nor did we get access on the 1st of July, which is the legal start date of the licence. Because unfortunately at the June meeting, all councillors voted in favour of an urgency motion to stop Council countersigning the licence. This is actually the second time that the licence has been stalled. Almost a year ago to the day, it was actually at the September 2022 meeting, I was standing right here voicing my concerns that councillors had deferred a recommendation that Council enter into a licence agreement with the Society, and again I was asking for access. And here I am again, a whole year later, asking for exactly the same things. I think the Society has been very patient, despite our growing concerns about the state of our collection and the frustration of seeing the museum neglected. Given that Council has a long-standing community group in the St George Historical Society willing to activate the museum on their behalf and return all profits to maintaining the building, as we have done since 1970s, we don't understand the reasons for the delays and the reluctance. We expect support, not obstacles, in making the museum a lively, active and profitable asset for the Bayside LGA. So to finish, firstly, on behalf of the St George Historical Society, I'm here to implore you to resolve the issue of the licence agreement tonight by allowing the General Manager to finally sign this document as per the officer recommendations. And secondly, just in case you vote against the agreement tonight, or just in case there is some other spanner thrown into the works between now and tomorrow, we request that councillors use their influence to ensure that the St George Historical Society is provided with a set of keys so that we can tend to our collection and start the quite long and arduous process of reopening the museum to the public again after 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. So councillors, I'll just make a comment there. You know, it's important that, and councillors, that, you know, we have in the past, and I'm sure the public will appreciate it, is vital that council ensures due diligence is always undertaken in any agreements like this. And in the interests of our community, we have to ensure good governance. And good governance is to protect the council, and it's to protect the historical trust, and it's to protect the asset on behalf of the community that we serve. So as I appreciate that it has taken some time to get to this point, we as a council have a responsibility to ensure that everything is in place and that we are all acting in good governance. So just wanted to flag that particularly because that is part of our role, and I believe that we've undertaken that to get the best outcome for everyone involved. All right, we have a recommendation which you can see on the screen in front of you. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Naji, seconded Councillor Jansen. Do I have any speakers? Councillor Souness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you rightly said, there's a few hurdles that need to be covered, similar to a sporting club or any other organisation that takes over one of our properties, which is owned by the community. We need to have good governance and good diligence in the aspects that we have. And this is a unique site. It's got its challenges, which are completely different to a soccer field or a toilet block sitting on a soccer field. So we have taken these steps to make sure that everything that the council has done is to protect the asset and to protect the community, because there are opportunities, there may be things that haven't been considered that may be of detriment to the council, such as the dilapidation reports, such as condition reports, which now we're putting into place and making sure that when the key's given over, we know where we stand in terms of the position of the community and the position of the Historical Society. One of the issues that came about at some stage was the strength of the Historical Society. I don't condemn them. They've got a lot of elderly people that were involved in it some years ago. And that's why the strength of the people looking after the property wasn't as strong as what it was. That's why it was closed for so long. Then we have the issues of the water ingress, and we had to have certain grants come into play so we can get the building up to a position where it can be reopened. Now, the Historical Society has to understand, it has to be clear. That's why we had the meetings over the past few weeks. This is a state heritage item. Now, being a state heritage item, the law surrounding state heritage items come into place. So any material change to the property and the curtilage of that property, which is the surrounding land, which this property sits on, has to go through a process, and the process is obviously advise the owner. However, the State Heritage Council, the New South Wales Heritage Council, needs to be appraised of any changes to the property, material changes, whether big or small. They have to be advised, and there has to be a response back. So one of the concerns was one of the rooms there was going to be modified into an office space. The council needs to be on top of that conversation. Whether I'm not an expert in heritage, I have been involved in the Heritage Office for some years ago, for a while. If there are any material changes, such as new conduits, drilling into the walls, changes of the material fabric of the building, then the Heritage Office needs to be appraised, and council needs to be well and truly aware of the impacts of those changes. So I'm happy to support this as long as we're clear and everyone here in this chamber is comfortable that that'll happen in order to move forward and make that place a place we can be proud of to open to the community in the very, very near future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. Are there any other speakers? There's no other speakers. I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. This takes us to item 11.7, which is the minutes from the Lyndon Hall meeting, and it's in relation particularly to a comment to the landscaping within the minutes. And I now invite Miss Anne Field, member of the Lyndon Hall Advisory Committee, speaking for the recommendation. Welcome, Miss Field. Miss Field's former councillor too.
Right, General Manager, staff and councillors, and my former colleagues, Councillor Sarafinovsky and Councillor Barlow. Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about landscaping at Lyndon Hall. Now, I guess with my very keen teacher's eye, I went through the minutes, and the minutes are not as we recall them to be, I'm afraid. My red pen got a little workout. The committee resolutions I'm referring to. We had asked for, as St George Historical Society, that the streetscape landscape, or landscaping rather, be fixed immediately as it's overgrown and engulfs the facade of the building. A suggested landscape plan for the front of the building, I'm led to believe, was completed in 2020 and sent to council. So that's not reflected in resolution number 1. Resolution number 2, well, also in the context of resolution number 1, we actually produced some photos showing over a period of time the landscaping at the front of the property. The second resolution, council's landscape architects to look at the whole site. That's what we had asked for. The minutes state that the society would draft a proposal, but we had asked for council's landscape architects to work with the society in order to develop a holistic approach that would enhance the significance of the site. Now, of course, the above recommendations align with the Conservation Management Plan. The current landscaping, I'm led to believe, was done in the late 1990s. Prior to that, earlier on in the 1990s, we had a gentleman called Chris Betteridge, who was a specialist in heritage gardens, who looked at the site. The CMP states, in fact, that the garden layout and planting has no heritage significance or value. In particular, it classifies the front landscape as detracting from significance and difficult to interpret. The back garden and plant selection is considered as having moderate heritage significance. And of course, the recommendations are clearly included in CMP to review and consider the existing settings for both the front and the rear gardens. Now, I'd like to raise another issue as well, which hinges on the role of the garden, and that is our annual income. For 10 years prior to Lyndon Hall's closure in 2020, Lyndon Hall made approximately annually between $400 to $600 from visitors. Council paid the outgoing costs at this stage, but of course the new licensing agreement will require the St George Historical Society to pay these outgoing costs, and that is likely to add to $1,000 a year. So obviously we have to increase our income well above $400 to, and of course that is somewhat not going to be easy. In reactivating the museum to make it an important part of our community's experience, we need to hold events and exhibitions. Some of these, of course, will be held in the garden, and some of these will be held inside the house. We estimate that that would cost an additional $5,000 per year to do so, and in fact, to break even. Any monies above those costs, we are required to return to the house for maintenance. Now, events, I refer to such things as Christina Steed Day, Local Government Week Acknowledgement, History Week Acknowledgement, Heritage Month, afternoon teas in the garden, school visits, service clubs, etc. And exhibitions can include the history of Lyndon Hall, the origins of street names in Bayside, lost heritage homes in Bayside, etc. Tasks associated with Lyndon Hall, such as cataloguing, research and report writing, are all very consuming And it must always be remembered that our members of St George Historical Society are volunteers, and we've done this without any support at all. In fact, even Bowie, in his conservation report in 1997, strongly recommended that a creator be appointed to the property. St George Historical Society needs the full support of council, I'm almost finished, and council staff. We need a commitment that councillors will do everything that they can to make Lytton Hall a wonderful museum that is relevant to our local government area.
Thank you, Ms Field. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all councillors. We always appreciate the work of our volunteers, and please pass on our thanks to the Lyndon Hall Advisory Committee, who we know give up their time and effort to bring this to life. So so we've got some minutes, motion from those minutes that are in front of us on the screen, and I'm sure some of the other things that you've raised, that Ms Field has raised, will be addressed at the next advisory committee, and as we have just in the previous motion, given delegation to the GM to work through anything like that. So we have a resolution moved, Councillor Souness, seconded Councillor Saranowski.
Just, Madam Chair, just a couple of changes. I won't speak on it. It's self-explanatory. That the finalised draft landscaping plan be presented to the Lytton Hall Advisory Committee at the earliest opportunity, because there's a meeting tomorrow, so I won't get there. And the recommendation to go to council. I've lost where I'm at. It's moving. And support for recommendation to go to council for endorsement. The recommendation to council will note this plan will be shovel-ready, awaiting opportunities from grant funding. Okay.
Oh, so you're just ensuring that because it wasn't ready for tomorrow, is that what you?
Oh, well, they
Yeah.
might not be ready for 6 weeks or whatever.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councillor Souness. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Saranowski, are you happy with that amendment? Councillor
Just
Barlow?
a comment that I know they've asked for a landscape architect, but that costs money and it's got to go into a budget, and it's been told before, we have said we don't have, the landscape architect is not available as far as I know, and if they ask for that, it's got to go through the committee, it's got to have a funding source, so it is, and I believe from the committee that they were going to draw up the plans that were half drawn, so I feel that the landscape architect mightn't have heritage values or heritage qualifications to a garden that they believe is incorrect. So I believe that my understanding of the meeting was that the landscape plan was to be drafted up because they had already half done it. So that's my understanding, and then there's got to be budgetary constraints for that.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. No other speakers? Councillor Cedric?
Just on that note, do we have an internal landscape architect that could be assisting this process
So,
internally?
I think it's something that we, as Councillor Barlow indicated, at the moment there is no budget, so we'd have to work through that particular process, and my understanding is that the resources just aren't there, even from an internal perspective, with all our projects that we're currently working through, which you will recall from the Depop recently too, and our 10 bold moves. Any other questions? All right, I put the motion. All in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you. This takes us to 10.1. So we have two motions that have been proposed for the Local Government New South Wales Conference. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Werner. Councillor Hannah, you wanted to pull this out.
You just have a question. This has come around very quickly, and I just wanted to know, I do recall there were a couple of very significant notices of motion that were passed unanimously at the last conference, in particular, the ones surrounding structural reform to finances in regards to developer contributions. Now, my question is, what sort of feedback do we get from this association on how these motions are progressing and how they are progressing them? Because I haven't heard anything, and I'm just wondering whether this is, hang on, we pass the motions and say hooray and say we've done our job. So I think there's a little bit of an obligation on us, perhaps as a council, particularly in regards to the motions that we craft and manage to get resolved unanimously at this conference, given that this is our peak representative union, to actually probably engage with that union and say, well, how are you going with this? Because that financial one it's a killer punch. We've got to get that done, and we have to get it done during this term of a Labor government in this state. So that's the reason I pulled it out. I haven't got any problems with the motions that have been suggested. I think it's great, but it seems to me that it's, hang on, we've done the job because we've got the motions passed.
No, thank you, Councillor Hannah, and we can certainly revisit the outcome of the resolutions, and I know that depending on what the recommendation is, they will write to relevant ministers. Some they will advocate for, and I guess I'm sure there is a process where they update people, so we'll certainly find out what that is. Thank you. Are there any other?
It's
Councillor
just a
Barlow?
comment that I believe you got the answer for the truck one, though. I believe that there was an answer and it wasn't. And the other one, the motion that I put up, nothing's been said about that. And that really needs to come up before the next election.
I have got some information on the truck one. We wrote as a council in respect of the trucks,
Yes.
and we got a knockback. Thanks, but no, that was under the previous. Now the parking problem with the trucks is getting worse, Madam Mayor. It is getting worse. I'm getting daily complaints about the trucks because the fine is simply far too low. Now, that was also passed unanimously, and you might remember Blacktown City Council actually had that as well,
Correct,
because
yeah.
they've got an enormous problem with it, despite providing free parking.
So
these
my
things,
my understanding is that as part of the toll review, that was part of our submission around the truck movements, particularly in relation, to the M5 and in that Bexley Forest Road area. So I think that probably when we got that response, that was prior to the toll review.
This is specifically in regards to parking.
Okay.
It's not truck movements. This is about 4.5 tonne or greater parking for longer than 1 hour in residential streets, where the fine is only in the order of $140. It's very time consuming for council rangers to actually mark the tyres and come back after an hour. The reward is not great, and many of the truck drivers and the owners will simply pay the fine to be able to park overnight there. And the resolution was that it be increased to at least $500. It was passed unanimously. That's another one where we really need feedback from our union. What are you doing about it?
I might ask the GM to make a comment.
Through the chair, as councillors may be aware, there have been some changes at Local Government New South Wales recently in terms of the CEO, and of course we have a change of government. We are writing to LG New South Wales, and our request to them is that the notices, the motions from last year that were passed, that as an introduction to this year's conference, that there be an update on the progress against last year's motions. It's not happened routinely in the past, but we also know that there's a lot of questions that have been outstanding and we're not aware of the progress that's been made against those. So we think formally, if all councils are made aware of who's been written to, has there an answer been received, what is it, that will help set the tone for the next conference.
Thank you, General Manager. Perhaps they need an overdue notices of motion table. we can.
Yes,
Councillor Nargi.
Yeah, and out of curiosity through you to the GM, since listening to some dissatisfied councillors that they haven't had responses, do we pay membership fees to local government New South Wales? And if we do, how much is it?
The answer is yes, we do pay those fees. I would have to check the exact amount. I think it's in the order of 80,000 per annum.
Thank you, GM. All right, any other comments? Councillor Douglas.
Just on that matter, I did speak to one of the local government New South Wales board members, Councillor Penny Peterson, who's a member for RIDE, and I asked her for an update on the noise camera motion that we put forward as a council, and she said it was really up to us now to advocate to the Board of Local Government New South Wales to get it as a priority for them to address. So perhaps that is the body to also write to, as well as the new CEO of that organisation, to ask them for a response.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any other comments? So we've got the two motions. I will take them as read. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to item 10.2. This is the 22-23 budget carryovers and revotes. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Saranowski, seconded Councillor Souness. Councillor Hannah, you pulled this item out?
Yeah, I noted there was quite a number on there, but one that jumped out at me that I did raise, I think when I was a mere mortal, because I witnessed a near accident there and it was quite disturbing, was the bollards along the Ramsgate Beach area there, in Ramsgate Road along the shops. It's a very low curb, it's extremely low. There are a lot of elderly people there, and there's curbside dining. I noticed it was on there. I'm just wondering whether or not we can get an answer on when that might be done.
If it's okay, Councillor Hannah, staff will take that on notice and provide a response. Thank you. Okay, no other comments? All right, all those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to item 10.8. This is a progress report on outstanding overdue councillor notices of motion. Moved Councillor Hannah, seconded Councillor Souness. Councillor Hannah.
Madam Mayor, this term of council, I have attempted to be calm, collected, polite, respectful, non-offensive. I've attempted to inject a little bit of humour into the proceedings to try and lighten things up. And I do note that things do tend to, over time, the intent of things tend to morph into something else. But this appears to be morphing on steroids. And I just wanted to go back to the original motion, because I want to talk about truth in sentencing, Madam Mayor. Now, the original motion was the 28th of June. And what it said was that the General Manager compile a detailed progress report on all resolved notices of motion or their subsequent amendments, outlining the progress of actions arising out of such resolutions including estimated completion dates and other relevant information, with such report to be listed as an agenda item for each ordinary council meeting commencing with the July 2023 meeting. Now, last meeting, I think we had about 13 matters listed, and I did question whether that was the extent of the resolved notices of motion, the outstanding ones, and I was assured it was, but I did discover that one of mine had mysteriously dropped off and been noted as completed when it hadn't. That's now back on there, but we're now down to 9. But for some unknown reason, the title of the report now says Progress Report on Outstanding Overdue Councillor Notices of Motion. That's not the intent of what was passed. What was passed and what was resolved in this chamber was for a report, and it's a rolling report. The only time it will drop off is when the resolution has been completed. Who says it's overdue? A lot of these resolutions don't have any time frame on them. This document's got to be a living document of all incomplete notices of motion that were resolved in the chamber, not overdue. And we've changed the title. So it's almost at the point where what we've been provided is not worth looking at. So that I want to raise that. I know this is a fair bit of work, but once this is developed and once it's compiled, it's simply a matter of someone checking the list, and they'll be recurring. It'll be on the list all the time until such time as it drops off or the date gets changed. So what I'm trying to say is this is not what was resolved. It's not this word overdue, that wasn't in the resolution, and that's crept in.
So just for clarity, so for example, sometimes we'll move a resolution that'll say, you know, bring back a report will come back in 3 months, or like it'll have an actual execution date on it. So are you suggesting that those should be ongoing, or are you happy for those that have a particular date to then not be sitting there? Because I guess technically they're still in operation to be completed or finalised.
No, my suggestion is they're on the report, and on the report it has the target date, which is the target date that's resolved in the chamber. And then once that target date is reached, either the report has been presented to council and then they can drop off, or if the report hasn't been produced, then the date's extended.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a living, breathing document, so that at any point in time, any councillor or member of the public can look at the list, and the list might have 80 notices of motion on it. I don't know. I don't know how many it would have on there. And I realise there's work in compiling it, but once it's compiled, there's not that much work in keeping it up to date, because it's just a matter of checking it off to see whether it's been completed. And in that way, not only does it keep the council staff focused on the notices of motion, it allows us to have a look at where things are at, and we won't be sending in requests, oh, can you tell me what's happening with this, can you tell me what's happening with that? We can look at the document.
Mm. So are you going to move an amendment to the resolution?
Well, I think the amendment to the resolution has to be that it's a progress report on outstanding councillor notices of motion, not overdue.
So one moment. So there's an amendment to that resolution. Councillor Souness, are you comfortable with that?
I suggest in the past, and now similar to this, because I can't see this being brought to council each month. I would assume it's something maybe sent to us the last week of each month or whatever cycle you do get of a list of outstanding information and then what action is there made. Whether there's any, because sometimes we'll notice information without an end date, so that would be repeated, and you just get something a report each month. So where we're at. Yeah, but I'm saying you can't come into the council each month, or it's not expensive. It's very similar to the DA list we used to get, and we used to get told there are 300 DAs still at 30 days, there's 100 at 60 days, and so on. This is a similar sort of thing.
So just to clarify, I've got Councillor Jansen next. Councillor Souness, just to clarify, it was a resolution of council to have it published on the council papers. So we have, we have resolved that way. And Councillor Jansen with your hand up.
Oh, you just summarised that, but I had
Just one moment. Councillor Souness, you mind turning off? Thank you.
So it looks like this list is generated off an internal database, but and it looks like it's partially operational because it has staff comments in there. Could the full completed list sit on a portal like the Connected Councillor? So it kind of, you know, we have, it's live there, but extensive. Sorry.
It's not you.
Did you got that question?
Yeah, thank you. What's the opportunity from an operational perspective?
Amanda, can you turn whatever you're doing off? Operationally, it can go onto the portal. I think that it needs to be made clear for staff direction. Are you saying that's secondary to the list we're creating here, or is it instead of, or are we only going to bring it to the council meeting? Because based on the discussion tonight, I think that needs a bit of clarification.
Thank you, GM. So I think let's just take a moment. So there's two options here. So currently what council resolved to do was to have a rolling list. There's probably a lot of, as Councillor Jansen indicated, a lot of detail in those. So one of the options would be to sort of have the notice of motion, the date and where it's up to, just a simple table that could be created. Alternatively, and that's obviously a published document on council papers, alternatively, the other option could be to have the more internal document uploaded or rolling on the councillor portal. So I guess there's two options there, and I put it to Councillor Hannah, it was your motion originally, so I'll give you the first right to reply to the options there.
Look, I don't have a problem with having a summary list. I think that's fine, because that gives us the notice of motion and it tells us whether it's coming up to be resolved, actions, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. That then allows an individual councillor or whoever to ask questions and drill down further. It's simply a matter of getting us a document so that we feel comfortable that things haven't fallen between the cracks, haven't been forgotten, have only been partly done, have been misunderstood. That's what it's all about. And it's not about burdening the staff with extra work. And I realise that initially this is going to take a bit of work to compile it, but I think it will be beneficial in the longer run because it will make for a more efficient operation.
Well, technically, it's a tracking exercise.
It's a tracking thing, and it just gives us confidence that things aren't, being forgotten or maybe being prioritised, and you never get to the end of it. I'm imagining these notices of motion from previous councils, going back one or two terms even, perhaps. I don't know. You don't know with these things.
So just as a mover of the original motion, are you, just to be clear, are you saying you still want a summary published on the business papers under a report, or would you be comfortable with just the document available on the portal for all councillors?
The first thing you said.
So you want, okay, I'm just so we're all clear. So,
But more than happy to accept a summarised form.
Of course, yes, it is definitely through the chair achievable. I wouldn't mind hearing what a summarised form looks like compared to what's on the paper tonight. Because that is basically it's a very short update and the wording of the resolution itself. That's all that's on there now. I think that is fairly short, or almost as short as we can get it.
Well, look, that being the case, it's just a matter of expanding it to make sure that it includes make sure that it's inclusive. I mean, it's just a matter of, it's just a matter of expanding it so that all the notices of motion that have been passed in the chamber that haven't been finalised are published. That's all it's about.
okay, so then does the amended motion achieve that the progress report on outstanding council notice of motions be noted? Yes, you're comfortable with that?
Provided the word overdue is taken out, because we're not talking about necessarily overdue ones.
So in 10.8, the actual name of the report. So the name of the report you're suggesting needs to be progress report on outstanding councillor notices of motion. So
Correct.
we'll amend the motion to say that the progress report on outstanding councillor notices of motion resolutions be noted, and that the word overdue be removed from the title of the report. Is that
Magnifique.
magnificent. Okay, so Councillor Souness, are you comfortable with that? Okay, Councillor Werner.
Thank you. The way I interpret what you've been saying is that only the overdue notices of motion have been published, but yet we actually want all of them that haven't yet been actioned. So maybe it needs an extra part of that motion to say that at the next meeting, all of the motions that have not been actioned yet are included in the list. Is that what you were getting at, Councillor Hannah?
Yeah, what I'm getting at is that the list, I think, has to be a lot bigger than what it is. I'm imagining it has to be.
So then really what the motion is that the progress report on outstanding it's not outstanding. It's that the progress report on all councillor notices of motion resolutions be that are not finalised. Yeah, I think the intent is that, so say there's notices of motion that go up. So those notices of motion are just a rolling thing, whether you're suggesting whether they can be actioned in the next month doesn't matter. The fact is they are a live motion, so they sit there. Okay. Is that are people comfortable with that? So then the wording would be that the progress report on all councillor notices of motion resolutions are published on the progress report, full stop. Next point, that, and then use the end, that the word overdue be removed from the title of the report, and then delete the last thing. Is councillors comfortable with that? Does that achieve the intent?
And Madam Mayor, look, you might like to check through you with the General Manager whether or not that's achievable for the next meeting, because it's not intended to place an additional burden. It's,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
what it could be, it wouldn't have to be in that format. If they're live notices of motion, it's purely cut and paste. And it could be August motion and it pending or something like that. Is that all right?
All I can say is we will do our best to achieve what's been discussed tonight for the next meeting. We're looking at how we might be able to, I think from the staff point of view, we want to be able to show what's in and what's out of service standard. That's really important for the staff. And so whether that's a traffic light system or something else that we will add to it, so that it's quite clear when it's published to the community and there's 80 things on it, 75 of those might not be due yet. And that's a really important message from those who are doing it. You know, they need to put that message out there.
Okay, thank you, GM. All right, put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you. Lucky we don't have many notices of motion, so we had time to debate that one. All right, 10.9, Statutory Financial Report for July 2023. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Hannah, seconded Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah, you wanted to pull this out?
Yeah, just again wanted to make the point, I'm going to labour on this, but we've now clicked over 505 million. The investments are now rolling into over 5%. All that interest is going into the restricted reserves. It's almost like rubbing salt into the wound. You know, financially, we've got all this money and we can't allocate any of it towards maintenance and renewal. So I just wanted to congratulate the officers on the report. It's a great report. We're in fantastic financial shape. The only problem is we can't get our hands on any of it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hannah. And look, I think probably the way forward is, you know, it's important that we sort of look through that. So I've asked the General Manager in the near future to organise a workshop so we can look at a range of strategies in how we can work through that. Thank you. Any other speakers? All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. That takes us to item 11.3, CPE 23021. I note that Councillor Nargi will be leaving the chamber. So this is a planning agreement, so we need a division. So this is in relation to a letter of offer to enter into a planning agreement for works in kind to deliver the multipurpose community facility in Arncliffe. So that was the resolution from the committee is on the board, on the screen. I'll give you a moment to have a look at that for those that weren't at committee.
I couldn't see in the report in terms of the height and floor space. Is this linked to, what happens if they ask for additional height?
So, yeah.
Have they got, that's it? They can't get, they're not indicating they're going to go higher, because I heard rumours, the gossip around was that they only give us this if we allow higher.
I might ask Ms. Barber to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The proposal would be facilitated by an amendment to the existing state significant development approval. What they've foreshadowed is that they would increase the height of the building, that the new community space would be in by 1 story. So essentially they'd have to lift the building up and insert that extra story in it. So no more floor space for them in terms of additional apartments or the like, but they don't want to give up what they've already got to provide the library. So it would go up by 1 story.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. And is there a number 4? Can you scroll, please? Yep. Thank you. So the committee did add to the recommendations there, specifically around where is it? Yeah, the warm shell. You know that there is some thought that council would really like to see the facility in consultation with council delivered in its entirety, so that any community asset then gets the best possible outcome.
Can I just ask a question just on the back
Sure,
of that?
Councillor Souness.
Through the director, do we get any parking associated with that warm shell or that stratum lot? Because obviously if we have staff there, we need to accommodate for them.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is part of the negotiation. At this stage, we've indicated that we would probably need a couple of spaces to service the library, like the home library van and the like. There will be a significant amount of parking there to service the retail that's open to the public. So we didn't consider that we needed parking for library visitors. In addition to that, that would be open to them to use, but probably a couple of spaces just to service the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. So do I have a mover?
I'll move, Madam Mayor.
Move,
just
Councillor
for the
Aronofsky.
record, I raised grave concerns when the original concept was put in this. I think it's a massive overdevelopment. We got railroaded by the previous government, but this is the best that we can do, and I'm sure the General Manager and the Director of City Futures will be able to get more community benefits out of it. So I was saying, you know, we've got no choice. Then I'll move it, but I just wanted to make, I had strong reservations when it was first proposed on it. I'm not convinced how they're going to solve the traffic in that area. On it, and I frequently now go to Uncle Scott's Club, and I scratch my head at peak hour traffic from Burrows Road to Princess Highway or Forest Road. I just don't know how the traffic in that area is going to cope on it, but I'll move it. Wish you all the best to try and get better deals for the community.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Jansen. Any other speakers? Councillor Barlow.
So I just wanted to ask a question. When this was presented to us, I presume we've negotiated more than they offered us the first time, because I think we all thought it was quite funny what they thought they were going to do. And the previous government, yes, ripped everyone off, but the government of today is doing exactly the same. Memorial in Mascot, doing exactly the same, getting the developers in, giving them extra to build, we'll give themselves some social housing. All we got out of Eden Street, or the government did, was another 42 units. That is it. And instead of being in a nice area, they moved it all. They're going to be the worst units in the block, I'm sure of it. And they used to, when it first came to Cal, was presented, it had quite a large area, landscaped area. That has now moved, and it's going to be, I think from memory, a lot of it's going to be in shadow all day, because they've moved it from the area where it was. So I don't think the residents, the developers are the only ones that are making anything out of this. Nobody else is achieving anything.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow.
From my perspective, I wasn't happy when I first saw it, and there's a lot of people in the area won't be happy given the parking considerations. But the worst part of it is we've gone from X number of social housing or community housing to an extra 42 when there's an opportunity to have so many more. It's just to me, from what I see, it's a money grabbing exercise. Okay, there's no token $12 million to us, but I'd like to see the rest of the numbers. They'll be phenomenal. Creating that sort of hub is debilitating the centre of Arncliffe as well. We've seen it before at Rockdale Plaza, where the centre of the shopping hub moved. It's going to happen to Arncliffe as well. Good luck to the shopkeepers there. Good luck to the future of the area. But it's a massive, massive overdevelopment. And in today's climate, when we're talking about social housing, when we're talking about people in difficult situations, we're creating $1 million 2-bedroom apartments in the middle of Arncliffe. good luck to the purchasers.
Yeah, so just reminding councillors that we are just looking at a multi-purpose facility within, that's all we're making a decision on tonight. Councillor Morrissey?
Thank you. I read the committee papers, but I wasn't at the committee, and the term warm shell was just referenced. So for the record, can we have a description of what we're agreeing to here? Because I'm thinking of a warm shell as an empty room with a heater in it. But I say that but just to be clear, because in my view, if the warm shell will not satisfy the developer's obligation, but the total monetary offer, and we do some amazing work, Arncliffe Youth Centre and some other, the aquatic centres that we're building and designing and things. But why wouldn't we take advantage of economies of scale, tell the developer what we want, agree on what that is, and get them to build it as part of it, give us all the associated warranties, rather than get a set of keys to a room. Sorry, I know that's a very broad term. Why wouldn't we take advantage of the developer's economies of scale? And then if that, say, for example, was 10 million, it seems like a lot of money for a warm shell, but and then there's if we can just set someone to talk to that, please, that'd be great.
So I think yourself or...
I'll just say a few words through the chair, and then the director can add anything further. We talked about the warm shell at the committee as opposed to a cold shell. The warm shell being all of the fit out, so the mechanical and electrical, all of the fit out other than loose furnishings. So that would allow everything other than those final design elements, the choice of potentially the carpet and loose furnishings that council would be responsible for. The intention is by no means to discount what the developer is legally obliged to pay. So if this is costed at less than their contribution, we'd be asking for a monetary supplement. So they're not going to get out of, they're not going to be paying any less than they are obliged to pay. And you're right that we anticipate that we will get better value because it is part of their building. They are on site. They do have all the technical skills. We've been fortunate in that to this point, there hasn't been a land value component added to our stratum. So we actually know we're getting a very financially good deal on what has been offered to date. But we expect that, I think what council was talking about at committee was, let's get as much as we can from the developer and not have to retrospectively go back and put in technology and put in electrical and put in aircon. Let's get that all done by the developer.
So can I, just for the record then, because this is a public document, even if we have a 4A with words to that effect to define what that is in one or two sentences.
We can put it in brackets after warm shell
just a
development.
definition of what a warm shell is and what we're talking
So
about.
includes all fit out with the exception of furniture, loose furniture and fittings. Is that okay? Includes, maybe we say the total fit out, includes the total fit out. And then such as technical, mechanical, electrical, toilets, yeah. Anything else? Maybe bathroom fit out.
And I do think because you've got the exception there, it makes it very clear it is everything. Like it is
Aircon? Let's spell it out. They're loose. All right, thank you. Everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah, just through you, Madam Mayor, just some clarification. What we're actually voting on, this is in addition to the statutory calculated developer contribution?
No, this is within that amount.
So this is in lieu of the 12.5 million? Okay.
Or if the value is less, then it'd be the component of that amount.
So what are we getting out of it then?
We're getting the space and
So-
the space fitted out with what we've just unpacked.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're saying to ourselves, the decision we're making is that what we're getting here far exceeds the developer contribution. Is that what we're saying? Or we're saying this is a better way to go? Because it seems to me that the developer's the one that's going to win out of this.
I'll ask the GM to respond. 'Cause
So, based on the work that we've done to date, for the scale of what we are getting here, well, let me start. So, we would never accept anything less than the developer contribution equivalent. That's a given. That's the first principle. But given that we are not buying land and the scale of the development that is being offered here in this location, we believe this is the best way to achieve the community hub that has been in council's plans for quite some time. So yes, we are giving up some cash, but our analysis says to us that the cash we are giving up would not buy this facility in that or a similar location if we have to go out and buy the land and do the construction required.
thank you, GM. Councillor Sue.
Just one final little thing. We've had some history in the past of being bequeathed a library in bequeathed a library in Brighton Les Sands, and it came to the conclusion that the library couldn't be fitted out because the floor couldn't take the weight of the books. Now we've got to have that consideration. That we're nodding heads.
That will be
So we're going to
noted.
have that consideration in place, because I've known at some of the places where I get involved in, they can't put compactuses in and certain things because the slabs are only 100 mil thick. Now,
So
it
we'll,
needs to be
we'll
appropriate.
we'll add into their weight bearing.
Yeah.
Fit for purpose.
Yeah, so it's a consideration needs
Yeah.
to be discussed very early on.
It's a good point. Yeah. All right, councillors. No other speakers. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Can we invite Councillor Naji back into the room, please? Oh, it's division, sorry. We'll just wait for the division table. All right, Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness, Councillor Werner, Councillor Awada, Councillor Barlow. Abstaining, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Cedric, and I'm for. I declare it carried. We can now invite Councillor Naji, please, back into the chamber. All right, councillors, this takes us to 11.4, the minutes of the City Works and Assets Committee meeting from the 9th of August, CWA 23.020. This is the update on the city projects and upcoming projects. A very interesting read for community, a very good presentation there. Councillor, as soon as you've pulled this out.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Reading through the report and being at the meeting itself, there was a request for 2 basketball facilities, in inverted commas, very close to each other. Now, is there an opportunity to have a conversation around that? The one is at Tunbridge Reserve. The other one, I've lost my things. The other one is at the tennis courts just down the street behind the school. That's what is
Scarborough.
it? Scarborough. So I think it's a bit overkill. I think maybe there's an opportunity to move one of the courts away from there, given they are in very, very close proximity to each other.
So at the committee meeting, we did discuss reviewing the site. So staff were going to go away and scope out potential sites. So that's still got to come back to
Yeah.
council.
So I just wanted to make it
Yeah.
put on the record there.
Yeah, that's fine.
And happy to move the
I
rest of the report.
moved, seconded, Councillor Jansen. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. All right, councillors, this takes us to item 11.6, minutes of the Botany Historical Trust meeting from the 7th of August 2023. Who pulled that out?
I pulled that out. I'll
You
move for
pulled-
adoption, but I just had a couple of questions. Marina Theatre, what's the situation? Do we own
Yeah,
that?
no,
It's
we
just
don't.
It's very confusing that historical trusts want to
Yes,
put
so
their
I
hands in
think
the pocket and buy it on behalf of the council.
hence why there wasn't a direct resolution there. So it is privately owned, and it part of it has a protection order. There was a development application a number of years ago on that site. I believe it's got approval.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It has approval for development while retaining the marina frontage. However, they have not executed on their development approval. So council has no ability to purchase
Maybe in the future. The other item was on page 106, and it talks about the plaques at Botany War Memorial. But then it goes, any research costs associated with this project, such as digitisation fees, are to be reimbursed to Rob Hanna Funding. What's that? Is that a little organisation that someone's running? Rob Hanna, I guess, is the president.
Is the
Is this a
president.
reimbursement, is it? Is that what it means?
So I might just defer
Unless it's a typing error.
We might take that on notice, because none of the directors were at that meeting, so we'll come back to you. On that, we'll relook at those minutes. I think we'll just, you. Oh, you,
I was just through you, Chair. I did once.
are you seconding it?
Oh, I will second it. But I did ask and did have the Marina Theatre as a notice of motion last year. So the response to that was that development application has until the end of this year, I believe, December, to be executed. So then we can plan any future sort of advocacy following that, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. All right, all those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to the final item for tonight, which is notice of motion. So we have 12.1, notice of motion, electric infrastructure. So do I have a mover? Move Councillor Werner. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Douglas. Like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. So we all know that we're in a housing and cost of living crisis, including here in Bayside. We have a higher mortgage and rental payments, food and energy costs and continue to increase as well. And according to a recent survey by Energy Consumers Australia, more than 1/4 of households are struggling to pay their energy bills. Local businesses, particularly small businesses, are reporting that spiralling energy costs are impacting on their viability. Now, gas is now actually cheaper than electricity. Gas is also highly toxic to human health. Oh, sorry, electricity is cheaper than gas. Gas is also highly toxic to human health. Decades of scientific medical research demonstrates the alarming health impacts that gas pollution causes when used indoors, including in our homes. A recent Australian study found that gas cooktops are associated with around 12% of childhood asthma in Australia. US research has linked gas stoves and ovens to benzene exposure, resulting in increased cases of leukemia and other cancers in adults and children. Doctors and health professionals are lobbying governments to phase out the use of gas from homes and public buildings, including hospitals. Even professional chefs who have traditionally favoured gas cooktops for commercial kitchens are making the switch to electric induction cooktops, which they suggest are just as good and a lot safer to use. The global Cook Safe Coalition, supported by celebrity chefs Neil Perry and Melissa Leong, amongst others, health advocates, Asthma Australia, plus major property developers including Lendlease, are calling for gas cooktops to be phased out from commercial kitchens and replaced with superior electric induction cooktops. Other New South Wales councils are moving ahead to introduce controls in line with some states and territories across Australia. This includes Waverley, the City of Sydney and Parramatta councils who have introduced requirements for new homes or about to and are investigating introducing requirements for new homes and commercial and residential developments. The good news is that homes and businesses that run on all electric appliances without gas are cheaper to run for occupants. Based on recent modelling, households in Sydney will save nearly $1,000 a year on their energy bills using electricity rather than gas to power their hot water units, heaters, ovens and stoves. This is not about forcing people to change what they already have. Rather, this is about stopping new gas connections and installations for new buildings. Bayside Council can join this growing national and global movement to create healthy new homes and businesses that are safe and affordable for future generations. So I commend this motion to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Barlow?
Oh, I'd like to move a foreshadowed motion.
Thank you.
And it's just that it's the last paragraph in the comment from the General Manager, which starts as requested. So, that as requested at the April meeting, hang on. No, it's in the comment from the General Manager. The last page, the last paragraph. I've got it here. So the last paragraph, it said that as requested at the rest, that's all the same to the response. And then I've got council will await the response before considering future directions, because we've already asked for this and there's been no reply. So, but as requested at the April meeting, we've made inquiries to the Department of Planning regarding the inclusion of wording about banning gas in the standard LEP, but have yet to receive a response. Council will await a response before considering future direction.
Is there a seconder to the foreshadowed motion? Seconded, Councillor Souness.
Thank you.
Thank
and I
you,
think that
Councillor
because
Barlow.
we're still waiting, and I think, and after today's report, I think in the Telegraph and possibly the Herald, everyone's just jumping ahead and not even thinking about the future. They're thinking this is great, but when you've got no electricity at all, you have a worry.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. All right, we have a foreshadowed motion.
Clarify something through you.
Yeah.
I like to clarify a lot of things tonight,
But can I just ask, are you speaking to the motion or the foreshadowed motion?
against the motion
Okay.
and for the shadow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Werner quoted that gas or electricity is much cheaper than gas. But when I Google, it says that gas seems to be in New South Wales cheaper than electricity. And it gives you the example, 30 cents per kilowatt of electricity in comparison to 4 cents per MJ of gas. So when you at the equal amounts, it still works out 30 cents per kilowatt to 14.4 cents of an equivalent of 3.6 NJ to get the kilowatt. So I'm confused. So, you know, just want to make sure that Councillor Werner, where did she get her facts from to say that electricity is more expensive than gas? Oh, cheaper, sorry.
So we're dealing with the motion at the moment. Are you for or against the motion?
I'm for the motion. So just a little bit of information about how the electricity market works in this country is that we bid for power at every moment of the day. So at night, power is more expensive because coal and gas provide our power. During the day, because we have the biggest uptake of solar per capita in the world, in Australia, we have cheap renewable energy that floods our electricity grid. So even if I don't have solar on my home, which I don't, because everybody else has solar, the prices from solar outbid what coal and gas are charging. So in the daytime, we have very cheap renewable energy. At night time, when that renewable energy is not available anymore because we don't have enough storage capacity in the large-scale storage batteries or small-scale storage batteries at home, then the prices go up significantly. And coal and gas are dictating those prices. They're the reason why our power prices have gone up, not because of renewable energy, but because of the price of coal and gas.
Can I ask you to address the chair, please?
Yeah, well, he was asking a question about...
I know, but the code of conduct requires you to address the chair, please. And
Councillor Naji was asking a question about... So, early last year, New South Wales' biggest council, the Canterbury Bankstown Council, voted to ban gas in its new master plan. The Daily Telegraph attacked them. This didn't dissuade the council because the proposal had widespread public support. Induction cooking is safe to use. There are no burns or hot kitchens. They are cheaper to run and don't release harmful chemicals that can impact children and pets. Now, other councils are moving on the issue across Victoria and New South Wales. And in fact, the Victorian state government has banned gas in all new developments from next year. Unfortunately, the Minns government is out of step with many other governments around Australia by saying that they will refuse to
Councillor
rule out
Douglas,
gas.
you need to address the chair, please.
Okay. Minns government is currently out of step with other governments around Australia by saying that they're refusing to rule out the banning of gas. So therefore, councils are taking it upon themselves to do it. Gas has been burnt in our homes for a long time, and only recently have the real impacts starting to be understood. Over the past 40 years, multiple scientific studies have revealed worrying health impacts caused by gas in homes, including gas leakages, even when the stoves are turned off. Research shows that children living in a home with a gas stove have a 42% increased risk of having current asthma and a 24% greater chance of being diagnosed with asthma at some point in their lives. Recent studies from the UCLA show that households using gas cooking can have higher levels of air pollution inside than is legal to have outdoors. Gas stoves leak methane and other pollutants even when they're not being used. A new study released in October 2022 found that unburned gas contains harmful air pollutants, including toluene, hexene, xylenes, and benzene 4. Benzene has been linked to anemia, reproductive disorders, and various forms of cancer. And while gas has been seen in the past as a cheap energy source, the domestic price of gas has tripled in the past years, and substantial increases are forecast throughout 2023 and 2024. Then there is the network fee, which adds to the bill shock already experienced from steep and rising gas prices. Already the network fee can account for around 40% of a person's bill. The network fee is over 40% of a gas bill, or around $360 per annum. Right now, the decline of residential gas use is approximately 5.6%. The rate of market decline will typically accelerate as consumers who remain connected to the utility pay greater and greater proportion of the network costs, driving more people to consider home electrification. The gas network fee increases logarithmically with the mounting costs passed on to fewer and fewer customers. That means it gets more and more expensive the slower we are to act. Cost of living is a major challenge for Australians, not least those here in Bayside. If council is slow to move on this issue, we will be responsible for putting residents at great risk of cost increases. If we work on the issue now, we can provide relief to residents experiencing the pinch. An opportunity exists to harness public support for driving down the cost of living through home electrification solutions, whilst delivering a range of other benefits from residents and our housing stock. The Grattan Institute found that by switching from gas to electric appliances, an average household in Sydney could save between $2,000 and $7,000 over 10 years. $2,000 to $7,000, that is huge for any family. The technology for home electrification is well established and proven, and it has been for decades. Firstly, council needs to support measures that stop new gas connections so we aren't building infrastructure that is already outdated and lock residents into using gas as the price continues to climb. Next, we need to prioritise measures that will support residents in upgrading their homes and saving them money. We need initiatives and home electrification solutions that are cash flow positive, enabling people to save money whilst upgrading their home energy, cooking, heat or water. The diversity of our residents' housing stock, socio-economic factors, financial pressures and understanding new technology require council to play a role coordinating solutions and educating residents so they don't get left behind with gas bills spiralling. Who benefits if we continue to have more homes connect to the gas network? The gas network owners, of course. These multinational companies, largely foreign owned, are reaping huge profits and charging those residents who remain connected more and more as others disconnect. We need to put our residents' interests first. But it is not just residents that stand to benefit. As the Green Building Council of Australia outlines, the business case for an all-electric buildings is overwhelming, including climate change. All-electric buildings powered by renewables are the preferred pathway to decarbonise our built environment. Removing fossil fuels from buildings is necessary to reduce our climate change impacts. Electrification is also the best enabler to deliver buildings fully powered by renewables today. Investor benefits include...
Councillor Douglas, just flagging at 7 minutes.
Yep.
Certainly.
Thank you. Investors are looking for assets that are on a clear decarbonisation pathway. All electric buildings that use renewable energy, you second me, thank you, will be able to access sustainable finance. So I'll just say that again because I was interrupted. Investors are looking for assets that are on a clear decarbonisation pathway. All electric buildings that use renewable energy will be able to access sustainable finance. Resilience and risk reduction. As we move into a state of decarbonising the economy, there will be a need to retrofit assets and remove equipment using fossil fuels from service. An all-electric building is a step ahead, making it more valuable and desirable asset ready for the future. And in terms of health and safety benefits, using natural gas in buildings generates toxic air pollutants. Occupants are exposed to these pollutants. These impacts can increase asthma and exacerbate respiratory illnesses. All-electric services eliminate these pollutants, improving the health and well-being of building occupants. Then there's tenants and consumer preferences. Many organisations have clear aims to decarbonise and have public goals to do so before 2030. Natural gas and other fossil fuels are incompatible with these goals. An all-electric building will be more attractive to these organisations and consumers as well.
Can I ask you to summarise, because I don't think there's other people that might want to speak. Thank you, Councillor.
Sure.
Douglas.
So, I mean, to summarise, I think we should look to the leaders like Canterbury Bankstown Council, which early last year voted to ban gas in its new master plan, and think about who do we want to be in this discussion? Do we want to be leaders? Do we want to be looked at, you know, by other councils and admired because we're protecting our residents? Or do we want to be the losers in the situation at the back of the pack?
Councillor Souness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A bit weary now. So council is all about rates, rubbish. What's the last one? Roads. Now we're being told how to boil our eggs, but that's okay. I'm all for new innovative items, new innovative discussions, but we live in a market economy.
Can I just clarify, you're speaking against the motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
And for the other one. So we live in a market economy. We've got to realise that the market will drive what needs to be driven. The market will drive the spot price for gas. It'll drive the futures price for gas. It'll drive the price for electricity and the futures price for electricity. What we have here in front of us is a conversation. I guess if there is an overwhelming list of historical evidence which suggests that gas is a bad product, we've had it for so many years. Like I see some of the commentary in what I'm reading in the motion, and it says, for example, in recent Australian study, 12% of child, well, that's just an estimate. I went and found the actual report, and it says it's an estimate. They haven't actually done a report. They've sat down and said, we estimate it to be 12%. The economy will determine what we're doing, and the economy will drive whether gas stays or goes. I can't comment on it per se myself because I can only talk about myself, and the example is at my house, gas is much cheaper than electricity. I've raised 4 children. They don't have any issues with asthma, thank God. But it could be the case elsewhere. I can't vouch for other people. But at the end of the day, we've got something in front of us that will come through a DCP, inform the LEP, and try and change the future of gas consumption within our LGA. That doesn't mean everything else gets changed. We might change 2% of our LGA to have gas banned. How about the rest of it? How do we force that? How do we force that down their throats? So I'd like to ask a question of the director. If we employ this, obviously it needs state government support. Does this affect the basics? People aren't ready for non-gas basics to come into play. We're talking about 5-star at the moment. There's talk about going to 7-star basics in the very near future. That's happening in commercial buildings. Houses themselves are touted to be 7-star. And then we've got the other conversation with the federal government, in association with all the state governments, wants to build 200 houses a week, not a month, a week, to satisfy the demand that's coming up. How is that going to happen with all these obstacles that constantly being brought into play? If you've got Waverley, Parramatta, Bankstown, Canterbury, Bankstown, and Bayside that say no to gas, and you've got all the others yes to gas, well, the market will determine where the builders will go. They're not going to come here because it's too complicated. We're creating more red tape than we've ever done in the past. We're looking at issues that are state issues, albeit we're leaders in the community, but we're not the ones that are saying the health effects of gas are enormous. You need to stop. The market determines that. People that have got infrastructure in their houses are not going to change overnight because we've got a report and we've got a decision made here to change it. So I think it's inappropriate to force developers, mums and dads, to go down a path which makes it uneconomic. We're telling them it's uneconomic. Well, they're going to do their homework. They're going to sit there and say, okay, what's going to cost us? How much is this? What's the long-term prognosis? And move in that direction. This isn't for us to do, I don't believe. If it's mandated by the state government through the LEP process, by all means.
Thank you.
Well,
Councillor Souness.
that's fine, thank you.
Councillor Morrissey.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. We've had 2 speakers for, 3 against, so I move that this motion be put, the original motion be put.
All those in favour? Aye. Of putting the motion? Aye. Against? I declare that carried. We'll put the motion with the right of reply for Councillor Werner.
This is a right of reply to the
Your original motion.
original motion. Okay, so a few things. First of all, it doesn't actually necessarily have to go through the LEP. So since we put that last motion, I actually discovered that Waverley Council has done it through their DCP, not their LEP. So I think, you know, I actually think that we can do this right now. We don't have to wait to hear back from the state government. You know, we actually, it's something that our council actually, that we decide what our DCP and LEP are. It's not the state government, although with the LEP, they have sometimes rejected, so, you know, certain changes. But you know, because we can do it through the DCP, I think that gives us every right to do that. The other thing is the market, we are in a market society, but the market doesn't decide everything, because why do we have governments? Do you know what I mean? The market, through the chair, I think to say that the market makes decisions, you know, okay, some decisions, but I think in cases like this, when we have health impacts, it's really important that governments take responsibility. And, you know, why do we have things like public health and public education? It's because they're really important things that governments take responsibility for. And I think this is the gas issue is something that's so important that we need to take responsibility for. We're the people that make decisions about the LEP and DCP. So let's just do that, and let's make sure that we're looking after the future health of our residents.
Thank you, Councillor. And so that now I'm going to put the motion now. So it's the original motion I'm putting on the screen in front of you. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that lost. I now put the foreshadowed motion.
Division.
We can have a division. So a division on the original motion. Seconded. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Souness, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Cedric, and I'm against that. Declare that lost. We now have the foreshadowed motion on the screen. Can we just scroll to foreshadowed motion? So this was moved by Councillor Barlow and Councillor Souness.
Yes. I want to make one comment. A comment was made by the mover of the previous motion. Governments need to take responsibility. Okay? I like to say, why have they not stopped smoking in our community? It's a revenue raiser. You leave it up to the individual to make their choice. It's a free economy. People make choices. Full stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Souness.
I'm happy to respond to that. I mean, I believe
So to the chair.
I do believe the New South Wales government just recently banned vaping for that very reason, to protect our young people. We have regulations to minimise the impact of cigarette smoking. We have age limits. We have advertising. You know, we've just been through a whole process of looking at gambling reforms. It might not be enough, but we do have regulation, because we cannot rely on the market alone. If it was up to the market, if they could sell alcohol to 10-year-olds, they would. If they could sell cigarettes to 5-year-olds, they would. We don't allow that because we don't allow the market to dictate what is good for our health. You know, and possibly, yes, maybe we should have stricter laws in some ways, in some areas, but we do have regulation. We have government regulation. That's why this motion is before us. The original motion is to look at, yes, we have changing information. There was a campaign called Natural Gas. It's mythologized fact that this gas is actually clean and healthy for us. What we are now finding out is, like we found about cigarettes, that it actually has massive health impacts. So I'm very sad that this council is going to be on the ledger on the wrong side of history, to be honest, because I think this is a lost opportunity.
Thank you. So we'll, do you want...
You can have your right of reply, Councillor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just sit.
Give me the opportunity.
Councillor Naji.
Madam Mayor, I don't profess that I'm an expert in energy, and in energy, but I can assure you, I can read pages and pages and pages telling you either way, but I respect one of the most Australia's scientific energy expert, Mr. Alan
Finkelstein.
Yeah. and he only quoted one thing, which it was quoted on the, I haven't got my glasses, that's the problem, on the 2nd of August 2023, and it says energy transition, say no to nuclear and yes to gas-fired power. I'm confused. The other confusion is, if you check the results, that it came up to this council in April, and we decided to send it to the state government for a feedback, it's the same number of votes of councillors. Really. I just want to share something very simple. My family, and I thank my father every day, that we migrated to Australia, leaving dictatorship in the Middle East. I came to this great country where it gives me and my family the choice of choosing. And I feel like the dictatorship is following us here. I think it's a choice. A choice, we leave it up to the residents. We didn't even have community consultation on this to find out what really the residents would like. But I'll share very simple, and I'm not going to take more than 5 minutes, I can assure you. I have a friend who opened up a new shop in Huskisson. If you don't know where Huskisson is, it's on the south coast, and there's no gas pipes. So he went on board in the food business, electrical, kebab machines, electrical fryers, and guess what? When the season in summer, he couldn't serve the people. They were waiting more than an hour to 2 hours because it wasn't cooking fast enough. He had to go and safely put a big gas tank at the back, run the pipes, and change everything to be able to serve the community. Thank you to Arncliffe in our LGA, and I'll speak with my own experience. And I'm not going to divulge how much we turn over, but our shop is so busy that if I had electricity powered, believe me, I won't be able to serve the community, or they'll be waiting 2 hours, 3 hours. I think we live in a democracy in this country, and especially in this LGA. Yeah, if there was an immediate health impact, that thing, and I'm sure the government will step in and say, hey, you need to stop the gas because it's going to cause cancer, it's going to cause this, it's going to cause that. That needs to be stopped because it is a major health risk. I agree with Councillor Souness. Cigarettes hasn't been not just known for the last week or last month or last year or last 5 years. It is a big health hazard. In a matter of fact, I have a friend who is a professor in the respiratory, and he tells me how bad smoking is. Now, I don't smoke because my motto, if you kiss a non-smoker, enjoy the difference, and it's so healthy for me. You know, my lungs is so good, you know, but it's the choice of you, Madam Mayor, you, Councillor Morrissey, you, Councillor Cedric, you, Councillor Souness, whether you wish to smoke or not. And please, we can't dictate the future of this country. If you want development, if you want to grow, the population is growing, and the other day we saw what's the growth of population. Now you tell me, if I was going to open a new business and I had no choice but to have it electric, I won't do it, knowing my success rate of business and how I'm going to serve the community. It doesn't work. And if I ask my old good mother, she always complains because she's got an electric stove and she feeds a big family. All of us are big eaters. And she cooks nearly every day, God bless her. And she always says, it's so slow. I wish I had a gas cooking device. So I think we should leave it up to the community, to the people, which house they want to live in, which shop they want to open in, whether they want gas or whether they want electricity. On the final note, I can assure you, I pay gas and I have electricity. And I can tell you, when I get the electricity bill, I nearly faint because it is so high. And if we're going to convert everybody in the future to electricity, I don't think we have the infrastructure to keep powering. So what do we need? Nuclear powered electricity? No. More coal? I don't know. So I think it's too early. We need to wait for the state government to get back to us, then we'll take it forward. And please, I don't want to see another typical another month we have another notice of motion. Just be patient, wait for the state government to respond, then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. Councillor Saranowski.
Madam Mayor, I rise to support the foreshadowed amendment. I went down to Beaver Street, Campsie, Monday night, and just walking around, and I asked some of the shops there, this is in Canterbury electorate, what do you have? And surprise, surprise, guess what they have? Gas. Gas. And I bumped to another chap and I said, who I know, and he said, Bill, I'm going up to the park on the weekend. Do you want to come over? And I said, I'm just curious. What are you going to have? Barbecue. Is it electric or gas? He said, of course, it's going to be, you can't put the plug. You can't. Madam Mayor, this is someone, or some greenies, and I'll use the word greenies, 2 minutes of fame. The notice of motion that was carried by the City of Sydney, Clovermore was interviewed, I think, yesterday, and she actually admitted that that notice of motion meant nothing, because she knows that the state government has got the overriding power. Now, if you read the wording, I want to save the planet too, Madam Mayor. I want to save it for my kids and kids' kids. But I don't see Waverley Council and Parramatta Council, if gas was the bad gas. I live under the fly park. God only knows what fumes I take in with the planes. And I live around the corner from the petrol station. Honest, I'm not too sure how many, what I'm taking in. But if this wonderful council, Waverley and Parramatta and Bankstown, I don't see them rushing off and serving orders on existing shops and say, you've got dangerous gas in your businesses. I don't see any council. Nobody. No one goes, no one. I said this is a 2-minute fame, and then the City of Sydney got caught out, where Clovermore admitted we don't have the powers. If you read the notice of motion, council waits a response from the Department of Planning. That's what we're asking for. We're asking them because they're the experts. The inclusion of wording about banning gas in the standard LEP template. That's not for Bayside. What we're going to look at is for the whole New South Wales. And I believe the Premier Means is on the right track. He's banned it. He said, no, I'm not going to ban gas. Victoria is a different basket case because of the number of power stations they've shut down. This is the right way to go. I want to save the planet. I love hugging trees and what have you, and save the world. I want to save it. Yeah, I love it. But I remember as a kid. Yeah, I remember as a kid. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I remember and I just vouch for what my. Yeah, I'll kiss you later. I remember my late mother used to, in our house in Richmond Street, we had gas stove, gas hot water system. You turn it on, bang, straight away. Water, hot water. As I said before, forget about the 2 minutes fame. We are doing the most responsible thing, and that is, we're going to wait for the department. Green Heartland Miracle Council, I don't see them moving notice of motions banning gas. I couldn't find anything on the internet. Our neighbours across the road, Georges River, they haven't moved any notice of motions banning gas. No. So I just put this down to 2 minutes or 2 seconds of fame. If we're fed income, let's wait for the department. They're the experts. They'll tell us. Because I'm sure in the big map of New South Wales, Bayside Council's probably got one little dot. That's who we are, little dot.
Thank you. Councillor Sedgwick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I didn't want to talk about this, but a few things have come up and I'd like to just point out a few things. I'm not totally against this. I don't have gas at home. However, I think all my homes. I think we as a council need to be really careful. We constantly put up these motions getting in people's business. When is council going to get out of people's businesses? Family businesses. People are under so much pressure. Interest rates, rising electricity costs, rising costs. Interest rates are through the roof. We are hitting a recession. We've got so much red tape. If we look at Ward 5, where in particular, and my colleagues here, we have roughly once every fortnight, a business is going under in Brighton Les Sands alone. And then we have these policies put in place to try to save the world. This has not been costed effectively. There's not enough evidence. 30% of New South Wales small businesses are under pressure and closing. I think before we put these things forward to change the world, let's look at what's going on. And the truth of the matter is, it's another green tactic to attack Bayside Council. And this green movement has come again and again and again, and it will. As long as people keep voting for the Greens, they'll keep coming back. But the truth is, this doesn't help families. This doesn't help those pressures. So we need to get out of people's business. Let's not dictate to people how they should live, what they should eat, how they should cook. Mind your own businesses. Get on with what's really important. Instead of saving the planet now here in Bayside and Brighton Les Sands and Bay Street. How many shops are closing? In Bexley, how many shops are closing? Does anyone care? Or do we just care about no gas? And then we say no coal. But how are you going to get electricity?
Please put the motion be put.
No.
We've had two
we
for and
have
two
that-
against.
Can I just ask a question quickly?
Yes, do we?
To ask the motion be put, I think procedurally.
Do we have a seconder for the motion to be put? Okay, second. So I think the motion has been to be put. All in favour say aye. Against? No, wait. Okay, so we won't put it yet. The councillors haven't agreed. So I'll go to Councillor McDougall and then Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I won't enter into the debate, and I'll be
And ask you to.
very quick. Thanks, Councillor Sonis. Just a question through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of City Futures. So if we were to put this ban in the DCP and then somebody proposing, whether it's a large development, residential development or a single dwelling house, they put gas in their basic certificate anyway, could we do anything about that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So BASICS is a state environmental planning policy, which is a higher order instrument in planning law than a DCP. So my interpretation of that would be that we couldn't override the provisions of a SEP, like the BASICS SEP, with a DCP provision. So I think
Thank you. Councillor Centrat. All right, I'm moving to Councillor Hannah, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to resist, but I'm feeling a bit energised. I was.
At least you're not feeling gassy.
I'm not, but I was. I've got to say that I was hoping this matter had been put on the back burner. Look, I think I've got the answer to my question, because I have been reading a bit of commentary about this, and I'm taking a completely different approach. But I think you will find that if we were, as a council, to introduce such a provision in our DCP, they would absolutely drive a truck through it in the Land and Environment Court. Drive a truck through it. So at this point in time, from a legal perspective, it is absolutely valueless. I can definitely understand the sentiment behind it, but I'm certainly in favour of this foreshadowed motion. I think that's where we should be at this point in time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. So,
I'll just be very quick.
If you want to save your right of
okay, all
reply, Councillor Werner, and then I think we're ready to move to the right of reply.
Thanks. So I just wanted to say about it going to court. Waverley's had this since last year. Have they had loads of court cases? I don't think so. They've just put it in their DCP, and it actually has stopped new gas connections. So I think all this kind of fear mongering that it's going to cause court cases and that it's going to be expensive and stuff, that's actually not happened in other cases where councils have done this. So I think we can stop talking about that.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. So we'll go now to right of reply. Councillor Barlow.
Just, I felt that because we haven't got an answer from the Department of Planning at the moment, so we must wait till we find out exactly what they're saying. I must admit, I declare, I do have gas at home and have had since we bought the house in 1979, and it was before natural gas had come to the area. So I ended up having to put all new pipes in because the natural gas blew the pipes and they were all in the roof, so we were lucky we weren't blown up. But we did have an electric hot water service at that stage. There is no way that could fit into our yard now because our yard floods. I've got the fantastic instantaneous one on the wall, best thing to have, doesn't take up space. But I can't believe that we as a council can say, you can't put gas in your house. I'm sorry, but it's up to the individual. Now, if everyone starts to say, you can't have gas, has anyone here, anyone anywhere, any of the LGAs thought about how much electricity is spare they're gonna take over? Are we gonna have blackout after blackout after blackout? And you will have it because there's not enough electricity. I mean, admittedly at the moment, if I have a blackout, which has been very rare, I've still got a gas stove, so I can still have a cup of tea. I just find my box of matches and off I go. So I believe that we have to wait. We're not here to dictate to anyone. We shouldn't be dictating to anyone. It's their choice. And if they choose to have gas, if it costs more, I mean, admittedly there's only, it's a small household, so it's not an expensive bill now. But it's my choice. And I love the fact the way I can cook quickly. And I think for commercially, you cannot dictate to them. I am horrified that they're saying to people, you can't do it any other way. And so that's why I feel we wait and we will see what happens, because it is not up to us. It's not up to us to say as a councillor, you can't have that. But anyway, you might have residents remember that, but you just don't know. But personally, I feel we should all be waiting till we find out if it's actually legal and see what happens.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. All right, I'm going to put the foreshadowed motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. That concludes our meeting
Division?
for tonight.
I'd like to call a division.
Division's the reverse on the original motion, but we'll call it. Division? Is there a seconder for the division? Yes, seconded Councillor Douglas. Okay, this is for the foreshadowed Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Sunis, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Cedric, and I'm for. I declare it carried. Thank you, councillors, staff. It was in the run sheet though.
Oh, right, we've done it by exception.
We've done it by exception. All right, I declare the meeting closed at 9:14 p.m. Thank you, councillors. Just please wait until we're off.